Hello, welcome to another Alpha Strike We Play video. My name is Adam and this is my friend Tarron.
Hey buddy, we're vehicling today, finally.
Would you call yourself a treadhead?
I'm a bit of a treadhead, I do like my tanks. I'm actually particularly fond of hovercrafts and VTOLs, to tell you the truth, but there's some really good tanks out there.
Yeah, there is.
Vehicles are good.
They are good.
They are very good.
Now, what you have to remember though is that the rules are designed around BattleMechs. Okay, they are the bomb. They are designed to be the best thing out there, and that's why everyone wants to play the game.
Everything in these books is geared to these guys. They're more maneuverable. They've got like better systems. All of the stuff it works around mechs, right? But there's a butt ton of other stuff out there.
That's right. It's like hot chips, isn't it? I mean, everyone likes hot chips. So you can have a little bit of hot chips and it's fine, or you can have a lot of hot chips. It just depends how much cholesterol. It's the rules, yeah.
All the chips.
All the chips. So if you want all the chips, then you're best to have a look at vehicles, which is what we're going to do.
So you know, Anna's going to get upset. Chips. What are you talking about, chips?
Damn you guys.
Okay, so vehicles. Let's do some basic stuff on vehicles. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay.
And we'll do some more videos and go into more depth.
There'll be a lot.
We'll do another series.
This is good. Videos on vehicles.
So there's different types.
Yes.
Okay, so your mechs have the quad and the biped, and that's it. Yeah. But vehicles come in like 4 different types, not including VTOLs.
You've got tracked, wheeled, hovercraft, wiggy, and you've also got naval and hydrofoil.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, 6. Yeah, naval. Sorry.
Yeah. So those are combat vehicles.
Yeah.
Now you can technically get support vehicles, so technically you can have an airship floating around your battlefield if you feel like it. But those are your combat vehicle options. We'll stick with combat vehicles for now because it gets really complicated otherwise.
Imagine a Goodyear blimp with some artillery on it.
I was going to say, yeah, technically you can't put turrets on airships, which I was upset about when I found out.
Aww.
But that doesn't mean you can't load it up with bombs or electronics. I mean, you could have half a dozen C3 command masters in an airship floating back there.
That's right.
But I digress.
Yeah.
The movement rules are geared towards mechs. Mechs are more maneuverable than vehicles in most cases. Okay, a similar tonnage of vehicle to mech, the mech will be more maneuverable.
Yes.
When you get into things like VTOLs and hovercrafts, obviously that's not true, right? But if you have, say, an 80-ton tank and an 80-ton mech, the mech should be more maneuverable than the tank.
Yeah.
Basic one is that vehicles can't go up or down more than one level. A ground vehicle can't go up or down more than one level at a time.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there's a two-level cliff, a mech can get up there by expending the 3 points that it takes to get to the top, but a vehicle has to find a way around or up by one level at a time. They can't go in water, with the obvious exception of the naval, the hydrofoil, and a hovercraft going across the top.
Yep.
I think there's advanced rules for weather conditions for hovercrafts that go over water in like a hurricane or something, but let's not get into that just yet.
Yeah. So mechs have a walk and a run.
Yep.
These guys have drive and flank.
Yes.
This is walk and run.
It's basically walk and run.
Same. It's the same thing.
Yeah. But whereas a mech, I guess the fastest mech you could really off the top of your head say would probably be an 812.
No, I mean, well, the clans. Once the clans came along,
veteran players, clans probably something like what is it, a 9?
No, they had the Fire Moth, which is like a 10-15.
There you go.
And I think they had Mask or something as well. It was probably even faster than that, but.
If you look at things like hovercrafts and VTOLs, you can get some serious speed out of them.
Yeah.
But again, that's just because they're way lighter.
Yeah.
And the combat generally. The damage, all of that sort of thing, is geared towards mechs. Vehicles are very prone to breaks, damage, critical hits, what we call motive system damage, all of that sort of stuff. So they have a lot of downsides, but they do have some cool upsides.
Yeah.
And one of the upsides that I love is the BV values, because it takes something like an awesome. You'll all know an awesome. 3 PPCs, plods along, blast things.
3.5, yep.
Right. It's 1,600, just over 1,600 battle value.
Yep.
Right. You can get a tank called a Shrek, which hopefully we've got a picture of that just came up there. It's the same thing, basically. It's 80 tons. It's got 3 PPCs. They're on a turret. It doesn't move particularly quickly, and it doesn't have huge amounts of armor, but it is a decent battle tank. And it is only 935 battle value.
It's the same weight as the awesome. I think it was 80
It's
tons.
80 tons. I don't think it has the same armor coverage. And like I say, it has all the downsides of vehicles. So motive hits, the poor maneuverability, all of that sort of thing. But if all you're doing is sitting on top of a hill and trying to fire PPCs at people, then you can do it for nearly 700 points less.
Yeah.
If you use a Shrek as opposed to an awesome.
Yeah.
Okay? So bear that in mind.
And a vehicle is not going to fall over.
Yes, they don't fall, they blow up. But they don't
But
fall over.
yeah, no, that's right. They flip over.
They
but
flip
don't-
over, they break, they don't move, their turret flies off,
Yeah.
they have their crew killed, etc., but they don't fall over.
That's really handy. So hovercraft are restricted to 50 tons max because of the way they're designed.
Yeah.
All right. So when you start going to heavier vehicles, you're looking at like a wheeled chassis or tracked.
Yeah.
It comes down to cost. It comes down to BV, and it's also sort of the terrain that they're going to move through as well. Like vehicles, you were talking about the terrain that they have restrictions in, but it's also like light woods and heavy woods and rough terrain and things like that. So your hovercraft, they can't go into woods, for example.
Any sort of woods.
I think wheeled vehicles can go into light woods, but not heavy. Tracked can go into all of them, but so they all have their advantages and disadvantages. It all depends sort of what you want.
Yeah. You have to really get in depth to get all of the different things together and go, well, this is the vehicle that I feel like using. They all have fairly similar downsides, but like you say, some of them are slightly less, some of them are slightly more, etc.
Yeah. So a vehicle is not sealed. That's one of the things. You can, with some of the advanced rules, you can get a sealed vehicle and it's okay, but normally they have to be in like a Earth's atmosphere sort of thing. So there has to be a breathable atmosphere.
And generally speaking, if you put a tank or a wheeled vehicle into a level 1 water hex, it's gone.
Yeah, that's it. It's just
they're not sealed. They're not done. It'll sink. It'll go. It's done.
Yeah. So avoid level 1 where you're next to water and a mech comes up and gives you a nice push. It's all over for you.
Yeah,
that's it.
Don't get shot from the side.
When you design a vehicle, they are inherently heat neutral. So what's interesting is ballistic weapons. You don't have to assign heat sinks to them or heat in any way, shape, or form.
Which is cool.
Yeah. So if you've got energy weapons, then you've got to sort of put things in. So
there's a part of the construction rules that deals with energy weapons on vehicles, and you basically have to pay for all of the heat that you're going to generate with those weapons. So that Shrek can fire all 3 of those PPCs every single turn without generating any heat because of the way it was constructed.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's cool because
it is very cool.
the awesome has to alternate, as I think we've mentioned before. At some point it starts building up heat and then it has to stop firing or reduce its firing in order to build that heat down again.
Yeah.
The Shrek, sitting on a hill and it just goes pow.
He just just keeps firing.
All 3 every turn.
Yep.
They have their own gunnery and driving skills, so gunnery and piloting basically, but gunnery and driving. And that takes into account the entire crew, as far as I remember.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's it's basically the same as the mech warrior in your mech, but it's a group of people with an averaged out value, right?
Yep.
But you can alter them. So you could put quite an advanced crew into a Shrek for the price of an awesome. So that's also worth looking at.
Yeah, I mean, if they've been trained together and worked in the machine or whatever it is for a long time, then they're going to get better. It's just the same as anything.
That's it.
Teamwork or whatever. But so why would you use a driving skill then for a vehicle? I mean, what are we looking at? If you're not piloting to fall over and things like that, one of the obvious ones would probably be skidding out of control. Yeah. That's fairly common.
Gonna say with the vehicles, there'll quite regularly be road hexes around the place. They're very good on roads because they go faster and all that sort of stuff, but they still have a skidding problem. So if you're driving if you're driving along a road and you make your turn, you have to do a driving skill roll for preventing a skid.
Which is, I guess that's the same for mechs as well. When they're on like concrete and paving and things like that, the vehicles have to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think hovercraft have to do it regardless.
Yeah, well, that's it.
They're like, really?
Yeah, hovercraft and vehicles they don't have skidding, they have a side slip roll.
Slipping, yeah.
So you have to do a driving roll if you move it at flank speed and then make a turn. I'm pretty sure it is.
And then move again, yeah.
And then try to move again, you have to do a slip. And if you're, for instance, a VTOL, you have a level that you're flying at as well. Right, so you can be up and down on the battlefield, and if you are flying towards, say, a level 3 hill, and you're at level 2, and you try to make a turn, and you fail your driving skill roll, you can fly into the side of the hill.
Yeah.
And that's funny.
Physics be funny.
It makes things go boom, and I laugh.
All right, so let's have a closer look then. We'll go through all the different sort of phases of the turn and how a vehicle operates within them. So let's start with movement.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about it.
We have. So they basically move exactly like mechs, except with the restrictions that apply to that vehicle type.
Yep.
So some vehicles can't go in any sort of rough or wooded terrain. Some can only go in light forest. Some can't go in buildings. Almost all of them can't go in water, etc., etc., etc. So you need to know the restrictions for that type of vehicle. Yeah.
Vehicles can have jump jets attached to them. They can jump.
Yep.
There's only one that I know of.
The
Kanga. I mean, there may be some newer ones now, but...
I was going to say there might be others.
But the Kanga had jump jets, and it works just the same as a jumping mech. They generally don't bother.
Wiggies and VTOLs can fly, obviously, so they are able to take multiple levels above and below. You'll need a separate dice to indicate what level your VTOL is flying at.
Yeah.
So that you know where you're going. And I think it costs you 1 point per level change.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, which apparently I do. The other thing that you need to bear in mind is if you are doing a lot of road work and you're making your driving skill rolls and you skid in a wheeled or tracked vehicle, then you are going to take what they call a motive system damage hit. And it's not good. We'll get to that when we get to combat, but it's not good, trust me. So if you do skid in a wheeled or tracked vehicle, then you have to make one of those rolls, and that's not cool. Okay.
So combat, I guess, move. That's the basics of movement, but we'll go into combat now. So vehicles have a facing, just like mechs and things like that. So we're on page 192 of Total Warfare. All right, and there is a attack direction little diagram there. So we'll put that up. Bing. Thanks, Tarron.
Welcome.
So if you have a look here, you'll see that the front arc of a vehicle is a lot smaller than the front arc of a mech.
Yeah. So if you remember correctly, the front 3 hexes for a mech are its front arc.
Yeah.
Whereas only the front line of the hex is the front arc for a vehicle. Now, if you have a turret on there, that's not a big deal.
No, for shooting or whatever. But this is like incoming attacks.
Yeah, incoming attacks there.
Is where it sort of matters the most. So it can be a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, because getting hit on the side is bad for vehicles.
Yeah.
And getting hit in the rear is super bad for vehicles. And as you can see, almost all of those hexes, incoming fire is hitting you either in a side or the rear. So it's not good.
It's not good. So it's
good
very important to sort of plan out effectively where you're going to end your movement and what facing, depending on sort of what's out there. It is interesting to note that vehicles do not have a structure limit for armor. They don't have a structure limit for armor. So with a mech, if they've got like a 200 on the internal, you can only have like double outside. Does not apply to vehicles.
So you can pack as much armor on there as you want.
Correct. Yeah. So it was, let's have like a small laser and just a giant armadillo thing that slowly crawls along the field. You can design that with lots and lots and lots of armor. You know, it is possible.
Yeah.
So under the right conditions, they can be quite monstrous. They can get across the table and take a lot of punishment.
You can take a lot of damage in a vehicle, but again, the criticals are just punishing.
So, armor-piercing special munitions is something we need to mention. Okay.
Which is, we have actually mentioned that in a video before, but not about vehicles, because vehicles are separate.
Yeah.
So every successful attack against a vehicle automatically causes a roll on the appropriate column of the appropriate vehicle critical hit table.
Yeah, it's automatic.
Corresponding to the location damaged. Standard modifiers indicated by piercing ammunition for determining critical hits still apply when rolling on the vehicle critical hits table. So I think it gives you a plus to the roll.
Something like that.
I think it gives you a plus to the roll.
Yeah.
And you will have to do that. So a successful attack, not a successful roll or anything like that. If the attack hits, you're rolling on the vehicle critical hits table.
Because they're a little bit more brittle in that respect.
Yeah. So, it's not good.
But vehicles can have turrets. So the turret itself has a 360-degree vision. You can shoot. So when you go to shoot, it's like the torso twist. So your turret will be in that position until the start of the next thing, and then it comes back to the front. Right? Turrets can get locked in position, so keep that in mind. They can also they will have armor assigned to that. So if it's got a turret, you assign armor to that location as well.
And it has a location on the ground vehicle hit location table. Now, if you don't have a turret, then the hit strikes the armor on the side attacked. So if someone's shooting from the front and they hit turret and you don't have a turret, then they hit your front armor.
To the front, which is pretty straightforward.
Easy enough.
But it's really nice to be able to have the option of a turret.
Turret is good.
It's really
turret
nice.
is really good. You get something like, I forgot the name. A Saladin. If you get a Saladin, they don't have a turret. They've got an Act 20 on a hovercraft, but it doesn't have a turret. So you have to point directly at the thing you want to shoot. With the Shrek, it's got 3 PPCs on a turret. So those light mechs that come after your LRMs, you just swivel that around, blow its legs off, and let them roll over the cockpit. That's the way.
Obviously, having a turret's going to affect the BV of a unit, but it's not that bad.
That'll be listed in the construction rules there, how much that affects different things. And I'm pretty sure you can put multiple turrets on larger vehicles, but you have to kind of look into the construction rules and see. We can have a look at that later, but that's not maybe later on.
All right, so if you shoot at a vehicle and you get a hit, let's go through that. All right. So they have their own ground combat vehicle hit location table, which is on 193. Bing! All right. So there's a lot of little bits and pieces, and it looks a bit different, but it's still 2 to 12. You still have, so if you're looking at the front, you've got a critical chance on a 2 and a 12, which is pretty much the same as, you've got head for mechs and things like that.
Yeah, but that's turret critical, which would be front critical if they don't have a turret.
That's right. So, yeah. So it's basically you roll 2d6 and you just work your way down, so depending on which angle you came through, and you just apply the damage to wherever it says. You will also see that there's little
gaggery
things. Little cross thing on there. So this vehicle may suffer motive system damage even if its armor remains intact. So you hit the location, you mark off your armor, if it doesn't go internal, you still have to roll on the motive system damage table, which is also on 193 next to it there.
Let's put it next to it.
Put that there. Bing! Thank you. So basically, look, 2d6 roll, 2 to 5, it doesn't do anything, but then as you start going up there, it'll start to do some other little effects. And they are ongoing.
And if you look carefully at that hit location table, you've got 2 criticals and you've got 4 possible motive system hits. All right, so front twice and then right side and left side from a front attack direction.
Yep.
Okay, and that is insane. It really is.
And depending on what type of vehicle you have and the direction that the attack's coming from, that's also going to affect...
It can be worse.
It can be quite bad. So your wing and ground effect is the worst with a +4. They are very fragile, you know, but hovercraft and things like that, which are fairly common.
The skirt and...
That's right. They're just designed to be a bit lighter and a bit more brittle, essentially.
Yeah. But that's 4 chances on that chart there to have to roll on this with the appropriate modifiers. So from the side, you've probably spotted there's an extra critical there. So if you're actually being shot from a side location, it'll hit the side armor. On an 8, it hits the side armor and also gives you another possible critical.
Yeah.
So there's 3 possible criticals on side armor as opposed to the 2 on front and rear armor.
So I found that having vehicles with turrets is useful because the motive system damage, if you're very unlucky, even with, like, if you've got a tracked one which doesn't have any sort of penalty to it, you know, it can still happen.
If it's hit from a side, even a tracked one has a +2 to that, which means if you roll more than a 3, you've got an effect.
Yeah.
All right. So if you are tracked, but you hit from the side and you roll a 4 or more, you will end up with a problem, right? So minor damage is a 6+, or 6 to 7. And that's a +1 to all driving skill rolls. So it makes it harder for your driver to control the vehicle. Yeah. Basically.
And as you work up, it slows the actual movement down. So
and all the way up to a 12+, which makes you immobile for the rest of the game.
Which gives your opponent an egg 4 bonus to shoot at you, which is bad. But if you've got a turret, it's not so bad.
That does not say that you are not still able to shoot. It just says your vehicle is immobile.
Immobile, yeah. So you've still got power. You can still fire your weapons and things like that.
Yeah.
Your ECM, if you've got it fixed to it, that still works. All your equipment's still good. It's fine.
It's just you can't go anywhere.
That's right. So it is worth mentioning that the critical hit table that they use is different. So we'll flip that over.
Yeah.
And it's page 194. Ground combat vehicle critical hits table.
Bing! Lots of binging in this.
There is a lot of binging, yeah.
Sorry, Bella.
Right. Which is worse because on the mech one, basically an 8 or more is when you start doing damage. With this one, it's 6.
Yeah.
So it's also a reflection of how they're a little bit more.
And some of the damage is really, it's not good. No. I mean, there's some really seriously bad stuff that can happen when you get towards the top of these charts. It's not good at all. So yeah, like you say, 2 to 5, no critical hit, which is cool.
Yeah.
You've got 6 on the front there. You've got driver hits. You've got cargo or infantry hits. You've got weapon malfunctions. You've got stabilizer hits. You've also got further up there. You've got crew stunned.
Yep.
Turret jams. Got weapon destroyed. Sensor hits. Turret locks. You got a commander being hit. You got an engine being hit, and then you've got 2 ammunitions there on the 11 line, and you've got crew killed, fuel tank, and turret blown off, just to cap everything off. If you can get that 12,
it's usually pretty bad. So it can affect your shooting. You can lose weapons. Ammo can explode. It's what you'd expect from a critical hit, but it's just so brutal, you know.
And there's some nasty stuff. I mean, those ammunition hits. I mean, it gives you a list of all the stuff that happens in alphabetical order here, and ammunition is the first one. I hate my ammunition cooking off because it happens to me all the time. It used to be a regular thing before case came along. Yeah. And even then it still happens. It's just less damaging. But these guys, it's not per location. It's not per ton. All of the vehicle's ammunition goes off. Yeah. Okay, all of the remaining shots, boom. Which means 90% of the time, especially if you don't have case, that vehicle is dead. I mean, almost all of the combat vehicles that are reasonable will have some sort of ammunition-based weapon. right? So they've got a mix of weaponry. They've got an autocannon, or they've got a big laser and a missile, or they've got an autocannon and a missile, or something like that, right? So there'll be some sort of thing there. Or they've got a machine gun to fend off infantry, right? And that will blow up. Every single piece of their ammunition is gone. You add it all up damage-wise, and it takes it directly to the internal structure.
Yeah.
And it's nasty.
It is nasty. You still get to roll on your critical hit table if you go through all the outer armor and it goes inside.
Yep.
Just like standard, but there just seems to be more chances of critical
getting
hits.
one without having to penetrate armor, because those 2 locations on the front and rear and the 3 locations on the side table, you don't actually have to remove armor in order to roll them. That's like the floating crit in on a mech.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're rolling on this table whether you got through its armor or not. So even things like Demolisher 2s and Shreks and all the other big heavy tanks, you're still rolling on this table. Behemoths, you're still rolling on this table.
Yeah.
Right? And it's nasty. Nasty stuff.
But that's, I mean, VTOLs are similar. We'll do a video on those next. But this is basically your ground stuff. We haven't covered everything. We'll sort of talk about a few other little things.
Start moving through bits a bit at a time.
But you'll find that they're all level 1 in height as well. That's something to remember.
Yeah.
Your basic stuff.
All your mechs are 2 levels high, whereas vehicles are all 1 level high.
Yeah, so just remember that when you're playing against them for line of sight and whatnot. But because of the way vehicles are sort of designed, they can sort of do a role maybe a little bit better for the BV. You know, we're talking about Lrm Carriers and things like that, you know. There's an SRM Carrier, which very slow, doesn't have a lot of armor, but it's got 9 SRM 6s on a turret.
If it gets them off at you, you are dead.
It's just horrible.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. And it doesn't cost that much BV, I don't think.
No, not really. No.
It's a balancing act, right? I think most veteran BattleTech players will have some vehicles in their collection.
Oh, definitely. I've got them.
I've got loads.
Yeah,
I've got heaps of. I love them.
Yeah.
Right, they're brilliant. But they come with the downsides, but they definitely have their upsides.
You know, it's funny, like, because we've gone through all this and we've talked about, it's this and that and whatever else, but like you take them on the battlefield and they're actually a lot of fun. They are really cool.
Yeah.
So it's something you should consider for sure.
If you can get your hands on the rules for vehicles, 100% give them a shot.
Yeah.
See if you like them, whatever.
And if you're into buying your miniatures, which a lot of people are, so Ironwind Metals, of course, do heaps of them. We sell them on the site. In most cases, you will find that you get 2 miniatures in the blister pack.
Most, yeah.
Yeah, of the same thing.
Yeah. Even if you just get yourself a little scout hovercraft type thing, like Scimitar or Saladin.
The J. Edgar hovers and stuff like that. Yeah,
something like that.
You get a couple of those in a blister pack, and they're useful, very useful.
A couple of battle tanks like a Patton or Rommel, classic.
Yeah. I like the Zukov, actually. That's really it's.
I've got a couple of Manticores.
They're good too. Yeah,
they're good.
Yeah, because I got the LRM, so they can do indirect fire. The Zukov doesn't. It's just 2 AC-10s and SRM 6, but the AC-10 is good. You can swap out some ammo or whatever it is.
And that's the Rommel and Patton ones are basically just like main battle tanks.
Yeah,
like they've got a missile rack and they've got a
main gun.
I think it's an Act 10 or is it an Act 5?
I think it's an Act 10.
Act 10.
Yeah. Act 5,
and they just, you can trundle them along. You can put them in positions to hold spots, especially with like breakthrough and take and hold sort of objectives, and things like the bigger battle tanks like the Shreks. The Alicorn is brilliant.
Yeah,
if you can get your hands on an Alicorn miniature, try it in one of your games and watch everybody run for it. It's just horrible. 3 Gauss rifles
on a turret.
On a big battle tank. It's like the Shrek, but instead of PPCs, it's got 3 Gauss rifles. That's 45 points of potential damage every turn, out to like 20 range. It's insane.
You don't have to worry about the ammunition going up. I mean, the weapon can. Like there is we got weapon destroyed. So if you get it on that location, then you roll a d6 on 1 to 3. The player controlling the target unit chooses which weapon is not working. I mean, they're all the same gun, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But if you've got different ones, at least you get to choose. You say, it's going to be the, I don't know, the machine gun or the small laser or something. So you still got your big gun, you get to choose. But
and
it's quite interesting.
That critical hit will actually cause an exploding weapon like a Gauss rifle
to
blow up.
Yeah.
So that's not good. But
no.
I mean, 45 points of damage.
It's one of those deterrent sort of tanks, Well, yes, if I can hit those big guns, it'll explode, but it's like I've got to get near it, and it's got such huge range.
If you can find a spot on the battlefield that has a commanding line of sight, and you can protect it with maybe some smaller units, it can obliterate stuff.
Yeah.
It can absolutely obliterate stuff.
Yeah.
And there's no reason you can't have it pick a couple of targets. I mean, you can put 2 on him and 1 on him or something like that. But it's full on.
It is very good.
It's full on.
Like you can have like a handful of lighter tanks or whatever to go after these to counter faster mechs from the opponent.
Yeah.
And they can be a real problem.
And my personal favourite, the Lrm Carrier, is just brilliant for indirect fire.
Yeah.
It's
I think the basic one was like 660 battle value or something, and then they did one that was a bit more expensive with
they did a heavy
slave unit or whatever.
Yeah.
They had one. It's so good. But just keep them in the back, indirect fire, spotting.
Alicorn heavy tank.
16 something.
1850.
1850.
It's 200 points. It's only 200 points more than an Awesome. Awesome does 30 points of damage per turn, and this thing can do 45. It's, good lord.
Look up the Thunderhawk. Can you look up the Thunderhawk? I'm trying to remember how much that was. Yeah,
I'm just looking at Lrm Carrier. 833 for an Lrm Carrier.
Okay, which depends which version that was.
I think I actually found that I have a Thunderhawk in my collection.
Everyone should have one.
I've been going through and looking at each one and trying to figure out what it is.
So many.
Just because not all of them.
What's his BB? Because he's 3 Gauss rifles as well. But
2,577.
Okay, he's got 4 medium lasers as backup, whatever. But
yeah, but even so, from 1,850 to 2,500.
With I think it's got the same movement as well.
Probably.
What's that? What's its speed? Speed on there. 54. Yeah, same speed.
Same speed?
Same speed.
So you could probably either get yourself a small harassing vehicle for the extra, 600 or 700 points? You can get a light mech for 600 or 700 points. Easy.
Yeah.
Or you can get something smaller and you can up the crew ability in the Alicorn and just have it with like a 2 or a 3 ability instead of the 4.
Yeah.
It's just, if you can get hold of vehicles and the rules for the vehicles, then give them a crack because they are brilliant.
They can still do some forms of physical attacks. They can charge.
Yeah.
So it's ramming. They call it ramming. But that's...
Do you remember Hutch's cheese? Do you remember that thing that he was going to do with the Vandermaster?
Oh, yeah.
Vandermaster, for those of you that don't know, is like it's 5 tons?
No, it's 5. It's really light.
It's really light. It's like 5 tons, isn't it? 5 or 10 tons. It's this little tiny thing. I think you get 8 of them in a pack for the Mini. It's just a small, fast, it's really, really fast hovercraft. And it's got 1 medium laser, or 1 small laser.
1 medium laser on the front.
1 medium laser on the front. But they go really, really super fast, right? And as you may remember from our video, because you've watched all our videos, on physical attacks, the charge does multiplied damage depending on how many hexes you've moved, which means that you're doing the 20 tons of damage multiplied by, I think it was about 14 hexes.
Something
you could end up with.
Yeah.
At not even a terribly unreasonable speed. You could get a really huge modifier, so he was going to use them as torpedoes.
Essentially.
And just jam them into the legs of mechs and go, Freddy died, I don't care. Bang! Yeah. So your leg's blown off.
So this is how thin the thing when it hits. It's saw before.
It just goes...
But it just does so much damage. But nobody likes playing against it. That's been one of those rules that have been around for ages, and people
Don't do it.
Don't do
it's
it
silly.
because it's stupid. You know.
And if
shoot stuff.
Yeah,
fun.
if you are playing a game and you're like GMing or running a game and someone thinks they're doing that, let them do it, right? If you're all playing a big game and somebody comes along with like 20 little Savannah Masters and starts running them into things, you say, yep, you can play those, that's fine, but you have to sit down right now and write out a name, backstory, and college outline for every single pilot in every single one of those vehicles, and you have to hold a service for each of them at the end.
A separate speech for at least 20 minutes.
Exactly. That'll stop them. You got that, Arch? Don't do it, matey.
But I mean, look, it's fair enough. I mean, ramming is one of the things that they can do. But
we did mention bulldozer blades get
we did
extra damage for a charge, and you can technically put them on the front of a combat vehicle, so it's worth thinking about. But I mean, you'd probably only be able to get away with it on a wheeled one. I don't think a tracked one would build up enough speed, really.
No, but if you're doing extra damage, who cares?
Who cares? It's extra damage. But
that's the basics of vehicles. We're going to do some more videos. We'll talk about VTOLs next and the advantages of them, and then we'll talk about some of the hoopy little tech and combinations that you can come up with.
Try and keep it all in reasonable order and try and cover as much as we can, but there's a lot of stuff out there, so yeah, give it a shot. See how you go. Yeah. See best bet.
I'm excited to talk about vehicles. We've done a lot with mechs, but now we're sort of branching off into some other things.
Yeah, don't get this the wrong way. There's still a lot out there to do with mechs, okay? But yeah, we kind of want to do vehicles.
Bit of variety. Because then we can do some scenarios and some battles with them too. So
Fun stuff.
So there we go. Thank you, Tarron. And that's the end of this video. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you found this useful, consider subscribing. I'd love to have you on board. And if you've used vehicles, in fact. Yeah, let's get started.
If you've got a favourite, chuck a comment down.
Actually, talk about it. Talk about why it's your favourite. You can discuss that.
Let the new guys know why they need to get at least a couple.
Yeah, definitely.
Because, it's worth it.
Yeah.
All good.
All right, thank you.
All right.
We'll see you next video.
Bye, guys.